All right, hello everybody. Today we are going to be looking at the respiratory system. So in your Edmodo, go to the post that says Structure and Function of the Respiratory System. We have a link for the reading, we have my email where you can send your assignments to, and we have the practice questions. So, what is respiration? So respiration is basically exchanges of gas between the body and the outside atmosphere. So specifically, you breathe in oxygen, you breathe out carbon dioxide and water vapor and other gases. Respiration is going to be carried out by the respiratory system. So respiration is actually going to involve two processes. One is ventilation or breathing, and the other is gas exchange. All right. So the organs of the respiratory system. So the organs of the respiratory system are going to form a continuous system of passages that we call the respiratory tract. And this is the how air flows into and out of the body. This is the path it takes. So it has two major divisions, the upper respiratory tract and the lower respiratory tract. And each have certain organs associated with them that we will go over. So the upper respiratory tract, all of the organs and everything in the upper respiratory tract are involved in conduction or the movement of air into and out of the body. So the nasal cavity is involved. You know where that is. It's in a space in the skull above and behind the nose and in the middle of the face. So we breathe in air. The air goes through the nasal cavity and gets warmed and humidified. And then you have hairs in your nose that help trap anything that doesn't belong in there. The pharynx is a tube-like structure that connects the nasal cavity and the back of the mouth to other structures lower in the throat. The pharynx takes in air, but it also takes in food. So we're going to look at, well, food passes from the mouth through the pharynx to the esophagus. So we're actually going to look at how we prevent food from getting breathed into the respiratory system. So the larynx connects the pharynx and the trachea and helps to bring air through the respiratory tract. The larynx is your voice box. So it contains the vocal cords and they're going to vibrate when air flows over them. All right. Certain muscles in the larynx are going to move the vocal cords apart for breathing. Other muscles are going to move the vocal cords together to allow vocal sounds. All right. So here's where I said about protecting about the larynx and the pharynx or about the pharynx and not getting food into the respiratory system. So a very important function of the larynx is protecting the trachea from getting food in it. So when we swallow food, the backward motion of the tongue is going to force this flap called the epiglottis to close over the entrance to the larynx. Right? This keeps swallowed food from entering the larynx. Okay, if food does get into the larynx, you are going to start coughing, and that's your body's way of coughing it up. So the lower respiratory tract, the trachea and other passages in the lower respiratory tract conduct air between the upper respiratory tract and the lungs. All right. So in the lungs, gas exchange occurs between the air and the bloodstream. All right. So the trachea, which is known as your windpipe, is the widest passageway in the respiratory tract. It's about 1 inch wide. It's about 4 to 6 inches long, and it has rings of cartilage which make it pretty strong. All right, the trachea connects the larynx to the lungs for the passage of air through the respiratory tract. And the trachea branches at the bottom and forms two bronchial tubes. All right, so the two main bronchial tubes, or bronchi, carry air between the trachea and the lungs. All right, so each bronchus branches into smaller secondary bronchi, and then we branch even smaller from there, all the way into bronchioles, and then the tiniest bronchioles end in alveolar ducts, which terminate in clusters of air sacs called alveoli in the lungs. So we start at bronchi, we work our way all the way down to alveoli. The lungs are the largest organs of the respiratory tract. They are found in the pleural cavity of your chest. The lungs are surrounded by two thin membranes called pleura. And then, let's see. I don't think we really need to. I'll let you read about the size of the lungs on your own, but the right's a little bigger because on your left side you have the heart. So, let's see. I don't think we need to know any of. Well, some of this stuff I will let you go over on your own, but a lot of it's just talking about gas exchange. The lungs are going to receive blood from two major sources. They're going to get deoxygenated blood from the heart, and that is going to absorb oxygen when you breathe in, and it's going to carry it back to the heart, and then that oxygenated blood goes throughout the body. But the lungs also receive oxygenated blood from the heart that provides oxygen to cells of the lungs so that they can work. Protecting the respiratory system. So the way the respiratory system protects itself is called Mucociliary Escalator. So basically that's all it does is if you breathe in something that you're not supposed to, your epithelium in your respiratory tract is going to secrete mucus, and the mucus is going to trap the particles and pathogens and work it through the respiratory tract via cilia, which are these hairs that kind of brush things toward your throat or your nose, but usually just toward your throat. All right. So the respiratory system is going to work with other organs, or other organ systems, excuse me. So mainly it is going to work as far as bringing oxygen and getting rid of wastes. But it is also going to work with the nervous systems and cardiovascular systems to maintain homeostasis in blood gases and pH. And then let's see here. So the respiratory system is going to exchange gases with the outside air, but it needs the cardiovascular system to carry them to and from body cells. So when you breathe in oxygen, the oxygen is absorbed by the blood in your lungs, and then it gets transported through the rest of your body. So hopefully that all makes sense. Make sure you finish your questions and turn them into me.